How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I would like to thank everybody for subscribing. We just got over that 600 subscriber mark, so as promised, I am making the video going over all the data from my first track outing with my Fox body. So a little rundown on the car first. I bought it as a roller, and then I found a 4.8 locally, and it was completely stock. It had 140,000 miles, and I picked that up and the ECU with it. It had a P59, and I got a harness made for it, and I ended up having issues with the drive-by-wire throttle body, so I swapped to a P01 and cable throttle, so I wouldn't have to mess with that drive-by-wire stuff anymore. And then I had tuned maybe 2 or 3 vehicles before, but I hadn't done anything from scratch, and all the other ones I kind of had a base tune to go off of. This one I wanted to do completely on my own. I made my own base tune and everything, and I had a lot of help on the setup from John Bewley. He spec'd the cam, which I released in my other video, which I will link, and then he also helped me pick all the parts. He got me the turbos, which are S366s, just cast 68mm turbine, and I had a Melling oil pump, I had Johnson lifters, some BTR valve springs that I had taken off of another build, and completely stock heads, unported. I didn't clean them, nothing. I didn't check the ring gap, I didn't change it, I didn't check any of the bearings or anything like that. The only thing that was done to the bottom end was the reluctor wheel was tacked onto the crank to keep it from spinning on the two-step, and I put an oil pump in it, and I put a good Hawley oil pan on it. That's pretty much it. But anyways, so we'll jump right into this. Alright, so first I'm actually going to show you a video of the first pass. We got some good commentary from my friend Robert. That looks slow. It definitely was. It went 11.1 at 95 miles per hour on about 13 pounds of boost, which is pretty terrible. I also lifted a little early, obviously, but here I'll show the slip now. There's all the slips from the first day. Over here all the way on the left you can see the 11.1 at 95 miles per hour. I went 692 at 99 miles per hour in the 8th mile. I lifted shortly after that, just because it was the first pass in the car, brand new. I didn't know how well it was going to brake or anything like that, so I wanted to just make a real soft low power pass and make sure everything was okay first. And I had actually made a few hits the day before out on the closed street, of course, and just with my base tune I ended up being really rich and too low on timing, so I went home and I made all the changes that I needed, and completely forgot to write the tune into the car. Went to the track and still forgot whenever I got there. Went up and made my first pass and had the same way too rich, way too low on timing tune. As you'll see here, down here on the bottom I've got the air fuel ratio, if you prefer that over the lambda here. So as soon as I leave, it just goes super rich and only 10, 11, 12 degrees, in the 9s air fuel ratio. Even drops down to the bottom 9s here and drops down to into the 8 degrees, which is just way too low, obviously. And you can see here, one of the reasons that the timing was so low was whenever you have on the stock ECU stuff, if you have it really rich, you're telling it that the engine's flowing a lot more airflow than it actually is, so it moves that, it uses an airflow calculation to do timing instead of just map like most of the aftermarket ECUs, so it'll move it farther down that timing map, and of course I had it, as the farther it goes down, the lower timing it'll have, so it was a lot farther down than it should have been, making it have a lot less timing. And I also just had the timing really low and safe, just because I was just getting started, but I obviously didn't mean to have it this far down. And another thing, which you'll see in the video at the end, I did not have, or I had a shift light, but I didn't have it set up right, so as soon as I let off the trans brake, the shift light would come on, and so I had no idea when to shift. I didn't have any gauges, and the only thing I had was my laptop sitting next to me, and I wasn't going to look over at my laptop to see the RPM, so I was just kind of shifting off of sound and just kind of guessing. And as you can see, that first pass ended up shifting at 6,700. It was making so little power that it dropped all the way to 4,600. After that, all I did was I wrote that tune that I wrote the night before, or that I had set up the night before, that I was supposed to be in it for the first pass, and obviously I did a lot better on that pass. I went at 965 at 141 miles per hour. As you can see, 144, 60 foot, 618, 112. Big improvement. I left the boost controller exactly the same on this pass as the first pass, so that was only the tune change. So we'll go down here so you can see the air fuel ratio. It was a little bit lean on the two-step there, it looks like, but two-steps can also they'll make the wideband read wrong just because it's not firing all the cylinders or whatever. But you can also see the voltage was pretty low. I was having some alternator issues, and I actually afterwards ended up pulling the alternator off and getting it tested, and it ended up being fine. Put it back on the car and it was working, so I'm not sure what really happened there, but it's still the 140,000 mile alternator, and that's what I ended up leaving on it all the way until I pulled the motor out of the car, and it worked great. So you can see it comes up leave on about 10 pounds, about 13, 14 pounds, 12, 13, about 17 degrees of timing, and shifted, let's see, right just over 7,000 that time, so that was a little bit better. IET barely even moves at all. The turbos aren't even working at this point, basically. But yeah, 9.6, 141 miles per hour. I was pretty happy to see that slip, especially after the first one. I was definitely expecting a little bit better than an 11.1 right off the trailer, but that's all right. I learned. But I remember seeing this slip, and I was pretty happy with it, but I was also a little bit disappointed just because if I had got that tune put in it whenever I was supposed to, then I may have never had any slips that weren't in the single digits with the car. But that's all right. That's not a big deal. Part of the learning process. So anyways, after that I turned up the boost a little bit. I believe I left the tune exactly the same. Whenever I do go to the track, a lot of times I won't make big changes at the track tuning wise, just because you're kind of rushed a lot of times, and you don't have a whole lot of time to look over the log and make the right decision, make sure do you really want to add this much timing or whatever else. I like to kind of make small changes at the track and then go home and look over the data, and I'll look over data for hours and hours and then decide what to do and make a plan for the next time out. And if I'm going to make a big change, do it then, and get it all ready for the next track day, and then go out and test and make little changes at the track again and do the same thing afterwards. That way I'm not I think that's a big part of why the motors lasted me so long. I've got over 150 passes on this stock bottom end 4.8, and I have not blown up any engines in my tuning career so far, but I do fully expect to blow this 4.8 up sometime during this season, probably, or maybe the next if it makes it that far. Just not in a bad way, just because I plan on pushing it absolutely to its limits and seeing how fast I can go with it before it blows up. So anyways, here's the next log. It went at 931 at 148 miles per hour. Once again, the same 60 foot I was leaving, or almost the same. I was leaving the same tune in it there. I was only bringing in boost at like 1.5 seconds or something like that. I actually have it here in the file. I did pretty good about at the first track outing, at least putting all the info in. So this pass one, obviously 4,200 RPM two-step. That's 8 pounds of CO2 at the launch on the boost leash controller, and 8 at 0.0, and then that was all I had, and that's what it took to make 13 pounds of boost. So there you go, the first pass, and I left a little note, Rich, with no timing. Next pass, same boost controller setup, obviously, like I just talked about. And then here we go on the third pass. I turned it up. You see, at 1.4 seconds, it was going to add 3 more pounds of CO2 pressure, and then it went 931 at 148 miles per hour. I think it made, let's see, we left on 10 pounds of boost again, came up 13, 14 pounds, dropped a little bit, and then that next stage come in and brought it up just over 16 pounds, almost 17, and 16 degrees of timing roughly. Yeah, 16, 17. I think this drop right here is just a bug in the log. I had my laptop sitting next to me in the car, so it kind of got moved around a lot, so it's possible that it moved and just made that cut out a little bit there. But you can see it was still pretty rich, in the 10s, air fuel ratio, mid 10s. So that's way richer than I would have it there. As you can see, I was commanding 0.775 lambda, which is roughly 11.4 air fuel ratio, if I remember correctly. I'll do the calculations right now. So yeah, I'll do the math on that real quick. That's actually, I was commanding 11.3 right there, as you can see, or 11.39. So basically 11.4 air fuel ratio, which is about where I would want to be at that boost level. But I had it pretty rich, as you can see. Still, I was pretty happy with that. You know, nearly 150 miles per hour on only 16 pounds of boost. That showed some good promise for sure. So next pass, I turned it up some more. Let's go back to that and see how much. I added another 4 pounds of CO2, and it same in the beginning, same two-step, you know, all that, and it went 914, 153 miles per hour, which I was really happy with. Same 60 foot, as you can see, all that, a little bit faster at 330 just from that boost coming in. Also on the last pass, I actually broke into the fives for the first time. That one I went a 592, and we'll go check out that log. I believe it was right around 20 pounds of boost. So here we are, same, as you can see, same launch, same 13, 14 pounds right there, and then comes up quite a bit harder here. Drops down to 13, 14 degrees, 15 up top, 14, 15 roughly the whole way across. You have about 20 pounds of boost, and you know, mid to low 10s air fuel ratio again. So really rich and extra safe. Then yeah, as you can see, IAT is still barely raising, you know, only just under 30 degrees over the pass. That intercooler was working pretty good, and the turbos weren't really making much heat at all. So then at this point, I remember I was like, I wanted to go 8s first time out, but I wasn't expecting it. I didn't want to set a goal like that with, you know, no prior experience and anything. But my goal with the car whenever I built it was to possibly go after the record, but I really wasn't expecting to get that far. I was more hoping to just go like to the bottom half of the 8s. My goals were 849 or lower, and 160 miles per hour or higher, or actually it may have been 165 miles per hour. I can't remember now, something like that. But so after this 914, I was pretty happy with that, and I was, of course, like, I only have a little bit to go and I can get that 8-second slip. So I decided at this point I really should have probably loaded up. I had some oil, some smoke in the car after every pass, or after these last few passes, as I started to turn it up, just because I didn't actually have a good catch can set up on it yet. So it was getting a little bit of oil out and getting it onto some hot parts and smoking a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. So of course I decided, let's see if we can get that 8-second slip first time out. So I turned it up some more. Let's go back here to my notes and see how much. I added another 4 pounds of CO2, so at this point I had 19 pounds of CO2 at 1.3 seconds. And you can see it 60 footed a little bit slower. The reason for that actually was the track was starting to go away a little bit, so it kind of shook the tire a little bit in the 60 foot. And then when the power came in, actually it spun a little bit and moved around some, but it wasn't too bad. I've actually got the video here from the GoPro. Alright, this is the outside view, but see, power comes in and it moves around a little bit. It definitely was way better than my first pass, though, as you can see. We'll go to the GoPro view. Moves around a little bit there. I had to do a little bit of steering. You can see the shift light on the entire pass, so I was just guessing on my shift points. So rich that it was just pouring flames out afterwards, and all the little sparks are probably pieces of gunk and stuff because I didn't clean the heads out. So that's probably that cleaning itself with that E85. But we'll go check out the log from that pass. It actually, I remember it messed up on the log. I believe that the laptop probably moved or something, and it just started like fading all of the data out here somewhere midway through second gear. So that kind of sucks, but I had most of the data that I needed to anyways from it. And I believe the air-fuel ratio still was reading right, the wideband, but just the actual readings from the ECU got messed up. But as you can see, left same RPM, 10 pounds of boost roughly, came up 14 pounds, and then it came in really hard and came all the way up to 24 pounds of boost, dropped down to 12 degrees of timing. Let's see here, into the 9s air-fuel ratio, and kind of stayed right there in the high 9s the whole way. Only had 12, 13 degrees in it. Really conservative, but still I was pretty happy with it. It didn't pick up a whole lot of mile per hour from the previous pass to this one. I believe it was just because of how safe the timing was and how rich it was. Obviously, you don't want it. I didn't want it to be quite down there in the 9s in the air-fuel ratio on gas scale, that is. So we'll actually do the calculation of what I was commanding there. So I was commanding 0.758 lambda. So we'll do 14.7 times 0.758, and that's 11.1. So that's what I was shooting for at that point, which was definitely, that was more rich than it needed to be too, just because I wanted to start out rich and safe and low on timing. But anyways, there it is. Hopefully you guys enjoyed looking at all this. I plan of course, at 1,000 subscribers, I still plan to show the first record pass, the data from that, and going over all that, and I'll get more into actually how I made it live at that power level, where I'm keeping some timing out and stuff like that, and I'll show the exact timing number, which I haven't shared any time before. So that should be interesting. And if you guys like this video, let me know, and I can do more of these. I can do another. I have a bunch of data, as you can see here. Also, another thing that is a good idea to do, like I did with most of these, is make folders for every track and every track day. That way you can go back and look at different times that you were there and see data from before and learn from it. And if you forgot exactly how much boost you're running or whatever else, you can go check and see where you're at before to get you a baseline, or see if you had the same issue another time or whatever else. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and let me know what you think. If we can maybe do another one at 750 subscribers from some other passes on the stock ECU or whatever else. So thank you guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. We should be out racing soon with Brennan's car, so that'll be fun for sure. So we'll see you in the next one.